It's ancient Rome. You wake up before sunrise. Your job today, same as every day, is to walk through the city collecting urine from public pots left on street corners. You carry it to the fuller, the laundryman, who uses it to clean clothes. You are a urine collector. You have a job title. The emperor taxes your industry, and this is nowhere near the worst job in history. For most of human existence, work wasn't a career, it wasn't a passion, it wasn't something you chose, it was something you were assigned, inherited, or forced into. And the people at the bottom of that system did things that are genuinely difficult to process from where you're sitting right now. So let's go through them, from bad to worse, to the kind of jobs that make you grateful for every single thing about your life. Let's start with the Romans, because they were creative in the worst possible ways. The urine collector wasn't even the bottom of the Roman labor pyramid. That honor belongs to the arena worker, not the gladiator, the person who cleaned up after the gladiator. After every fight, someone had to walk into the arena and remove what was left. Body parts, blood, sand soaked through completely. They did this between rounds while the crowd was still watching. They had a specific tool for it. A long wooden rake. They had a specific name for the job, and they were almost always slaves, which meant they didn't get to decide when they were done. For context, the Colosseum held 50,000 to 80,000 spectators. On busy days, there were dozens of fights. Do the math. But let's go further back. Ancient Egypt. 3,000 years ago, the Ebers Papyrus, one of the oldest medical documents ever found, lists treatments that included crocodile dung, rotting meat, and animal blood applied directly to wounds. Someone had to prepare those treatments. Someone had to source the ingredients, tasting bodily fluids to help diagnose illness. Sweet urine meant diabetes. Bitter meant infection. They didn't know why it worked. They just knew it sometimes did, and they did it anyway, every single day, because that was their job. Now let's talk about medieval Europe, because the Middle Ages had an entire economy built around jobs that should not exist. The gong farmer was one of them. Gong was the medieval English word for human waste. A gong farmer's job was to dig out and remove the contents of cesspits and outdoor toilets by hand. At night, only at night, because they weren't allowed to work during the day. The smell was considered too offensive for daylight hours. They lived outside city walls because no one wanted them nearby. They carried what they collected out of the city in barrels on their backs. Methane gas builds up in enclosed cesspits. Multiple historical records document gong farmers who climbed down into a pit and never climbed back out. But the job that kept entire civilizations running for thousands of years, the one that makes everything else look manageable, was the food taster. It existed in ancient Egypt, ancient China, ancient Rome, medieval Europe, and well into the 1800s. Every major ruler who was afraid of being poisoned, which was almost every major ruler, employed at least one person whose entire job was to eat their food first and wait. You ate what they ate. You drank what they drank. Then you sat there while they watched you for signs. The Roman Emperor Claudius had a dedicated team of them, and the salary was good, unusually good, because everyone involved understood the arrangement perfectly. Some of them served for decades and died of old age. Some of them didn't make it through the week. You never knew which one you'd be, and you couldn't quit. And then there's the job that wins, not for being the most physically disgusting, not for being the most dangerous on any given day, but for the combination of everything. The night soil collector in 18th century London and Paris wasn't just a gong farmer. By this point, cities had grown massive. Paris had over 500,000 people. London was approaching 1,000,000. Night soil collectors worked in teams. They entered the city after midnight. They dug out cesspits, loaded barrels, and transported the contents outside the city to be sold as agricultural fertilizer. They wore no protective equipment because none existed. They developed chronic respiratory conditions from the gases. And the city they were cleaning so everyone else could sleep? That city didn't think about them at all. They were invisible by design. They worked in the dark specifically so the people they served would never have to see them. They kept civilization running, and civilization pretended they didn't exist. Here's what all of these jobs have in common. They were essential. Every single one of them kept something larger functioning, and in almost every case, the people doing these jobs had no choice. They were slaves, or indentured, or born into a caste that made escape impossible. They weren't at the bottom because they failed. They were at the bottom because the system needed a bottom and decided it would be them. You will spend roughly 90,000 hours of your life working. You will complain about it. That's fine. That's human. But somewhere in history, someone spent those same hours in a cesspit in the dark, carrying what they found on their back out of a city that wouldn't let them walk through it in daylight. They didn't have a bad job. They had the only job anyone would give them, and they showed up anyway, every single night, because that's also what humans do.